If you want to check out different content from myself, I've just set up a second channel where I'm going to post fitness and things. The link for that will be in the description. And of course, if you want to avoid the random lottery of FIFA points, you want to go straight to the source, buy the players directly, use u7buy.com and use the code TVM at checkout. What is going on, guys? TVM here. Welcome back to another episode of the Norwich City career mode. We are currently, if you can believe it, third in the league. Only two other teams, Liverpool and Spurs, are yet to lose. We have the best defence. Not by much. You know, there are teams with 6 and 8 goals conceded, but we've only conceded 4. We have a big game now against Liverpool. We are away at Anfield. And we know how they play. They've signed the deadly Corona. He's on the bench. They've got a couple of other people on the bench as well. But the Liverpool team is largely unchanged. Apart from Tolisso, it is a largely unchanged side to the real-life team. And of course, we are a season in. Normally in career mode, there are some extravagant signings, but Liverpool haven't really partaken in those. So we know how they play. They play a high press. And this was quite easy, actually, to break down. Van Dijk sent to Iceland there. That just sent him on his shopping, and he didn't come back in time. And Greenwood, a current Manchester United player on loan, has just scored at Anfield against Liverpool. Now, of course, what I mean by the high press is, of course, Liverpool press very high up the pitch. That leaves massive gaps in behind. And if you can defend properly, which we've started to do this season, especially with the likes of Simicon being much better than he was last season, look at the gaps that are being left because they press so high. It's quite easy to pick them off to the point where we probably could have scored 2, 3, 4 in the first half. We scored 2. We, again, were under the cosh. They held an awful lot of the ball. And in real life, if you notice that Liverpool, when they play their games, they don't have a massive high ball retention. And the reason for that is because of the gegenpress, because they like to counter-attack teams. And that's exactly what they were trying to do with us. They were trying to knock it around, but also trying, as soon as they lost it, they were pressing. They were like 3 or 4 men to 1. And that left so many gaps in behind. And the pace of our strikers is so much better than the pace of their defenders. It was just a case of how many can we score. So even though this against AI, Liverpool are winning a lot of games, they're not losing a lot of games because it's the quality of the player that comes through when you sim. So that's why Liverpool are beating everybody this season and not losing games. It's because they have a very good team. And on paper versus another team, they will likely win. However, in practice, when it actually comes to playing them, they're not that difficult to break down because of the gaps left in behind by the press. So that's why I felt like we needed a big explanation, because it is on Legendary. There are no sliders in place. But I felt like when I was playing this game, I honestly felt like it was too easy. They're probably one of the easier teams, apart from maybe Bristol or West Brom. Potentially, I don't know if Leeds were that easy to play. I'm going to say no because I can't remember them being easy. I can't remember what the score was. It was only like 2 episodes ago. In fact, it might have been last episode. Either way, they're not the easiest team we've played this season, but they're definitely in the top 3 or bottom 3, whichever way you look at it, easy teams to play because of how big the gaps were in behind, and our pacey strikers, Jonathan David and Barco, were able to take advantage of the space. Now, this is a completely opposite end of the scale. Chelsea, big game here at Carrow Road. I've decided to put Bella Kotchap at defence as well. Their team is much changed. I mean, they've got new personnel all over the place. And Pasalic, who is actually a Chelsea player in real life, has come back and is now playing for them. He's on the bench. He's a very good player in real life. Big fan of him. I think he was on loan at Atalanta in real life. I'm not sure if he's actually made a permanent signing. Kovacic gets through and scores a goal. This game was so much harder than the Liverpool game. And it was because they pressed, but they didn't press too high. So the gaps in behind were few and far between. They were very, very compact in the midfield. They had a holding DM in Bakayoko who did his job very, very well. The defenders didn't really lunge out of position. And both of the wingers, where Willian and Pulisic, came back to help out wherever possible as well. That made things very, very difficult, and it made the midfield a very, very difficult place to sort of get through. So that's the type of team on FIFA that I really don't like to play. As you can see, if this was Liverpool, they would be pressing me now, leaving gaps all over the place. Fortunately, we did find a gap, but Kepa, if you can believe it, made a save. and that meant Jonathan David was offside. But it was a difficult game, and I didn't think we were going to come through it with anything other than a defeat, to be honest. This would, of course, been our first defeat of the season. Greenwood got into a very similar position he did against Van Dijk, but unfortunately this time doesn't hit the target. We are approaching the latter stages of the game, and then Cyprian pops up with a lovely heel to heel through the defenders, and then scores and celebrates with the Norwich fans. He tried to be socially distant. Kubo wasn't having any of it. He said, no, virus is finished now. Let's just get in there and mingle with them. And he did. And I'm sure he'll be out for a little while. That looked like a foul to me. But it wasn't, apparently. And the game was then concluded. It finished 1-1. I think we were very lucky to come away with a point there. They were the better team on the day. They held it better than we did. They had much more possession. But fortunately, we've managed to scrape a point. Into the next game, we're just going to plough through these now. We are at Molineux for this one, and it is Wolves. They don't really have that many new... I mean, the two new central midfield players, they're new, of course, but the rest of the team is exactly the same. And it got me thinking, actually, about Adama Traore and why I hadn't tried to go after Adama. I don't know his potential. I'd like to look at it, and I'd like to maybe explore that in the January window. I'm not saying we're going to buy him, because we do have a lot of players who can play in his position. You know, Kubo can play there. We still have Buendia, who's now 80 rated. Jonathan David is our big sort of marquee sign-in for the attack. Barrenettea there, feeding Barco. One of the first goals we've scored in 2 seasons where we've actually crossed it across the face of the penalty area. If you play Ultimate Team, you score this goal maybe every other game, 2 or 3 times. In career mode, unfortunately, you don't score that goal very often because the defenders are switched on to the fact. But the Wolves defenders weren't exactly switched on. Barrenettea gets the better of the defender there and unfortunately can't hit the target. He has done very well in this game. He had a shot from the corner which didn't go down very well, but other than that, he played very well. Barco on the score sheet. We won 1-0. We are picking up points. And then I read this. We're not on track. The board have come to me, despite the fact that we're like 3rd in the league at the moment, and have said that we're not really on track and our brand isn't big enough. I don't really know how you can improve that without finishing high up the league. But either way, we go on, we march on, and we now are at home against Leicester. Now, Leicester, if you remember, when we looked at deadline day, they sold an awful lot of their players, but they have signed our player, Basogog. They've also got Ava Banega in the midfield, but they did sell maybe 4 or 5 of their first team, and they didn't really bring in anyone of any note. They bought Basogog. Apparently they had Ava Banega January last year. But apart from that, they've not really gone out and bought anyone this season. Last season, John Stones, Ava Banega, and I think maybe one other player that was brought in. But early doors, Johnny Evans does something very Johnny Evans-like. I was actually a little bit annoyed there because we'd scored, but the referee decided to send Johnny Evans off. So I kind of thought to myself initially, that's good news. 10 men Leicester, not going to be too difficult to beat. Then I remember the last time we played against a team with 10 men, I think it might have even been Liverpool. We still couldn't come out with a win. It was very difficult to break them down. Leicester didn't plug the gap at the back. They were playing a 3 at the back, and John Stones was nearly sent off at this point. I think he was yellow carded. We managed to get a shot on target from the free kick, but beating Kasper Schmeichel from there is never going to be easy. And from there on, it just wasn't an easy. It wasn't an easy game. Basogog completely skinned the defender. Simakan was just completely beaten all ends up by our former player, Basogog. He feeds Maddison, and it's 1-1. And I'm thinking, we're not going to beat this 10-men Leicester. And look at the gap in behind there. That was constant because they just didn't plug it. And when I say they went to a 3 at the back, they didn't actually switch into a 3 at the back. It was a left back, a right back, and then a left centre back. And the right centre-back position was completely empty. So it wasn't really a 3 at the back because they were exposed. They weren't compact. Barco gets in very well. He is 70 minutes in, manages to beat, I think it's John Stones, and scores a goal to make it 2-1. And from there on, it was battened down the hatches, and we managed to come away with a 2-1 win. Jonathan David penalty, Barco in the 71st. Despite Basogog and Maddison's best efforts, we now sit in 3rd. How we're not above Liverpool yet is a mystery to me. I'm guessing it's the point against Chelsea that hindered us slightly. But either way, I think all that rhymed then. I don't know, I didn't try. Just us and Spurs left without a defeat this season, and you'll never guess who we play next. It is, of course, Spurs, and we are away as well. So we will visit the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and hope to come away with a bare minimum of a point. I am a little bit nervous now because we're getting into that territory of can we go the entire season unbeaten? I don't think we can. I was very nervous against Chelsea. There have been a couple of games this season where I thought maybe we wouldn't be able to do it. There is absolutely no way we're going to go another, 21 games unbeaten. It's just not going to happen. We will lose at some point. It's just a question of when. That's going to do it for today's episode, though. In the next, we play Spurs. We then have return fixtures, I think, against like Leicester, and we end up going back through what we just did. So we'll have to play Chelsea again. We'll have to play Liverpool again very soon. It is going to be a rough month or two. And, of course, the January window. I can feel offers coming in for a lot of our players, and it's going to be a question of whether we can keep them. But those times are ahead. If you have enjoyed today's episode, do me a favour and hit that like button. It really does help me a lot. I want to thank you to everyone who's supported the series so far as well. It really does mean a lot, and I'm genuinely looking forward to FIFA 21 Career Mode as well. But subscribe to the channel for more content and for that FIFA 21 Career Mode. Until the next time, goodbye.
Football Index. The game changed. Download the app now.